Let's have a little chat, shall we? Let's have a little occult chat. This is your host, The Occult View. I'm always up early in the morning, like any spiritualist, doing what I do, doing the work that I do, doing that voodoo that I do. And I'm being facetious when I say that, but not really. I like this time of morning. It is 4:32 in the morning, and I like this type of morning. This time of morning. I like it because it's very quiet. The world is asleep, and you can really focus on the things that you desire, your heart's desire at those times. But I want to talk about something that really rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm going to speak on it, and I don't care who or what it offends. Now, I normally try to steer away from talking about people like Umar Johnson. Um, I'm not going to say that I hate the brother or I dislike him per se. I don't agree with his ideologies. I don't agree with his views, especially when it comes to homosexuality or whatever the case may be. I don't agree with his views. Um, do I think that he makes good talking points sometimes? Yes, I do. Do I think that they are sincere? No, I don't. And by the way, I'm so happy that Jaguar Wright is safe and that she is out of jail. I am glad that Jaguar Wright is safe and that she is out of prison. And I continue to ask the ancestors and the gods to protect her because that black woman right there, she deserves our protection. That black woman has been through a lot. She really reminds, it's like the Billie Holiday effect. She reminds me of Billie Holiday and all of the things that Billie Holiday had to endure during her life here on earth. It was like that's why they made that movie, The United States versus Billie Holiday, because the United States was she was being stalked by the US government. And that's not a conspiracy theory. The FBI was stalking her because of her song Strange Fruit. Jaguar Wright she did an interview with Real Life Productions, and she was talking about her recent experience being locked up in jail and how she was molested by a lesbian female guard against her will, of course. So I ask that the ancestors continue to protect her. And I ask for the gods and the spirits of the universe to continue to protect Jaguar Wright in her journey in exposing and revealing the dirty truths about a lot of these black entertainers that we look up to. And this is where I want to veer off into Umar Johnson. He did an interview recently. I forgot the name of the vlogger that interviewed him, but it's a well-known vlogger that does interviews. He did an interview recently where he talked about the P Diddy situation and various other things as well. And some things I rode with, and some things I did not. But when it came to the P Diddy situation, he did give his disclaimer that he did not approve of what P. Diddy did and all of those other things. Basically, it was chopped up to him saying, there, slapping him on the wrist. There, you shouldn't have done that. No, not really holding him accountable emotionally in the passionate way that he did other people. And I'm going to get into that. So he did say, just to be fair, he didn't condone what P Diddy said. I mean, what P Diddy did, or whatever the case may be. But then he turned the conversation to something else. He started talking about he had a question for the black community. He wanted to flip the responsibility back on the black community And he wanted to try to what he did was he wanted to basically blame the black community for the domestic violence that takes place amongst black women. Then he said, why is the black community so adamant about seeing P. Diddy being taken down? Why is the black community so adamant about P. Diddy, a black billionaire, genius businessman? These are the things he was saying, not me. Why is the black community so adamant about seeing this man taken down? Well, sir, the reason that we are so adamant about seeing this man taken down is because he's a bad fucking man. Then he said, the black community stays silent basically when black women are getting abused by their black male counterparts and the black community doesn't do anything about it. Pause, stop, let me say this. Sometimes in those cases when no one does anything about it, it's not because nobody does not want to. Sometimes the women are so afraid, and this is not victim shaming, by the way, never that. Sometimes the women are so afraid to say anything, people don't know that they're being abused. They don't know. And if you don't know that a person is being abused, if a person is putting on a front out of fear, a lot of times, a lot of these women that are victimized in domestic violence, they are afraid to say anything because the men that they are with are threatening them. So, how can you blame the black community or try to make the black community complicit in what P. Diddy did to Cassie and the countless other women that he has probably done that to? To me, it sounds like throwing spell work at the black community because you're trying to defend P. Diddy on the undertone. That's what I see as an occultist and a spiritualist. Then he went on further to try to victim shame undertone Cassie. He made a statement. Again, he put up the banner and disclaimer. There. Tapped him on the wrist. There. That was wrong what you did to Cassie. But Cassie, I got a question for you. Is this really about money? No, what did he say? He said, is this really about justice and protecting other black women from him, or is it about money? And then he put emphasis on the fact that she is now married to a white guy. So what? So what? I'm one of the most for black men and women to be together. I'm one of the most pro for that. But so what? She found love with a man who apparently is not beating on her, who is loving on her and treating her right. So, what difference does it make? Now, I understand about generational wealth, and I get what he's saying about that generational wealth staying in the black community, but what's the point in generational wealth staying in the black community at what cost? So, you would prefer, and this is just what this is just from what I'm gathering. Would you have preferred, first of all, let me get this out first. Cassie was not the one, and I'm not defending anybody because I don't have a stake in this fight, but Cassie was not the one who put out the video footage at that hotel of her being attacked and brutalized by Puff Daddy. She wasn't the one that did that. Somebody did it, but it wasn't her. Cassie hasn't really been saying anything. So now that that woman has moved on with a good looking white guy, Omar Johnson is mad at her. And now he's trying to low key, in my opinion, victim shame her and question her, is it about money or is it about bringing awareness to domestic violence against Black women? Maybe it's about both. Then he said that when that incident happened in 2016, she could have, see, it's always this shoulda, coulda, woulda. Why didn't they leave? Shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's always these questions. He said, why didn't she do something about the abuse when he attacked her in that hotel back in 2016? You don't know. See, he's a man. We are men, and we take things for granted. For example, some of the women that live in my building, some of them are afraid to go down the stairwell, even though there's nothing wrong, even though there's nothing, chances are nothing's going to happen to them. But as a man, I don't have those fears. I walk down the stairwell all the time. And I don't have the fear that something is going to happen to me or somebody's going to SA me or harm me. I don't have those fears because we're men. And trust me, ain't nobody looking to SA me. If somebody's looking to SA me, something's wrong with them, child, because I would annihilate them. Okay? Most people are intimidated by my body size anyway, and they act passive aggressive any fucking way. Because men are a lot of these niggas are bitch made anyway, like the one Omar Johnson is trying to low key defend, in my opinion. Cassie did not go to a lawyer or she didn't sue him back then. She probably, she probably didn't have he was making the case that she could have went to the police department or she could have got a high price attorney and they would have immediately jumped on that case to take action against Puff Daddy. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. He does not know that. If this man is as powerful as Omar Johnson says he is, what would make Omar Johnson think that it would have been so easy for Cassie to have obtained legal protection and legal representation? This is a man who has destroyed people's lives allegedly. I'm talking about Puff Daddy. This is a man who has evaded the law for so long. He's even evading the law right now. He's not in jail. He's still walking around a free man. And like a lot of people are saying, even Omar Johnson said, oh, he'll be all right. He'll rise again. So what does that tell you? Because once again, we want to apply this phantom white man is the one who's trying to bring P Diddy down. The phantom white man in the sky. I'm not talking about God, but I'm just talking about this invisible phantom white collective that these blacks are always talking about. Not saying that there aren't white people that try to bring black that are not trying to do harm to black people for racist reasons. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. And that ain't no disrespect or no shade to white people. But the point that I'm making is he is saying once again that Puff Daddy is being targeted by the upper elites. Well, how about this? How about the upper elites may not even be white? Huh. Has anybody ever thought about that? How about the faces that they show us may be white? But how about the upper elites may be black like you and I? How about that? Has anybody ever considered that? Here we go again, where we are dismissing the main point of this entire situation. And the point is this: Puff Daddy, no matter what his race is or gender is, he is a horrible person. He has done horrible things. And then he brought up how come no black vloggers are talking about how Harvey Weinstein, they overturned some parts of the New York conviction of the allegations against him, and how now the Los Angeles ones, his attorney said they could also be overturned and Harvey Weinstein can go free. Maybe people didn't know about it. He said, how come nobody's talking about that, but people are talking about P. Diddy? Well, the reason people are talking about P. Diddy is because P. Diddy is more famous than Harvey Weinstein. I didn't know who Harvey Weinstein was until all of this stuff came out. Harvey Weinstein was in the background. He is a producer, director, or whatever he is. He was in the background. Puff Daddy was in the forefront. So we know who Puff Daddy is. That's number one. Now, of course, now people know who Harvey Weinstein is, but maybe people didn't hear about those things being overturned because the media is very, very deceptive sometimes. They will throw stuff out there and then they won't make it, it won't go viral. It won't go viral. But why are you putting that burden on black people? Now, I understand him talking about the whole Eminem situation. I get that. I'm in agreement with Omar Johnson on that. I'm not going to call him a doctor because I don't look at him as a doctor. Okay? But when it comes to the Eminem situation, I'm in agreement with him on that. And the black rap community calling Eminem, the goat of rap and all that old bullshit. Yeah, rock him and all y'all whack for that bullshit. I'm sorry. Yeah, I said it. I agree with him on that. But when it comes to P. Diddy, I have a serious issue with him trying to blame the black community for P. Diddy's actions. Now, if you want to say that the black community, especially the men in the community, does not do enough to protect black women, okay, I get it, got it, no problem with that. But for you to try to correlate that and connect it to what P. Diddy did and try to make it seem like that the black community is just, they just want to see a good, like basically he's saying a good man being torn down who's a billionaire, then that's where I have a problem. That's where I have a serious problem. P. Diddy is not a good man. And Howard should have snatched that honorary degree or doctorate, whatever they gave him. They should have snatched it. As a matter of fact, they should have never gave it to him in the first place. What the fuck has P. Diddy ever done for the black community that really, really made a difference? What works? What works is he known for? What has he really done for the black community? Besides exploit it. See, this makes me give Umar Johnson the side eye because it makes me wonder, what's up with you? I remember there was a conversation some years back where a black woman asked him a simple question about the school, the school for boys that he was supposed to be building. Is it built? Is it operating? What's up? I don't know. Not my business, but I'm just talking. She asked him a question about the school, and he literally almost ripped that woman's head off, from what I understand. Now, if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that Dr. Omar Johnson is a fraud. I'm not attacking him and all that because I really do think that's a good concept. I do think that's a good concept that he has, that he wants to help young black boys. Hell, I wish I had a Umar Johnson when I was coming up. Maybe I would have turned out a little bit better, child. Who knows? You know? So I'm not knocking him for that. What I'm saying is this. The black community is not responsible for what P. Diddy did. And you cannot place that on the black community and say, well, how come y'all ain't talking about Harvey Weinstein? Hasn't he been talked about enough? Aren't we tired of talking? Harvey Weinstein is old news. Don't nobody care nothing about no old, dilapidated, half-dead Harvey Weinstein. We looking at the stuff that P. Diddy is doing because he's more relevant and he is more well-known than Harvey Weinstein. And the things that are being said about P. Diddy, the alleged things that are being said about P. Diddy, are a little worse and a little heavier than what's being said about Harvey Weinstein. Now, Harvey Weinstein is a scumbag too. But the things that they're saying about P. Diddy, it outweighs the things I've heard about Harvey Weinstein. Because thus far, I haven't heard about Harvey Weinstein messing with no little girls and little boys so far. But there are things being said about P. Diddy that are a little bit more heavier and a little bit more sinister than what I'm hearing about Harvey Weinstein. So I don't care that he's a white man. Let's be fair. Even with Bill Cosby, even with Bill Cosby is a perv. He did what he did, but even with Bill Cosby, the stuff that P Diddy is doing, it outweighs both him and Bill Cosby, if you ask me. And one thing I will give Bill Cosby, at least he did donate to the Negro College Fund. At least you can see the things that Bill Cosby has tried to do for the black community, even though he was a hypocrite in doing it because he was doing other shit. He brought up Bill Cosby too, saying the women that came, back 40, these are powerful men. He was making the point, why would women come back 40 some years later to try to come at this man? Well, how about this? The laws of the land at that time were really not in place to give women the voice and the protection that they have now in order to pursue these types of violations against them, to get justice. So when I hear people like Umar Johnson saying shit like that, to me, that sounds like he is not for justice. He's for these black billionaire elites. They have white billionaire elites and they have black billionaire elites. And he thinks that we should support P. Diddy in his downfall. Why? Am I going to get any money out of it? Is he going to run me $1 million? I wouldn't even want his money, to be honest with you. I wouldn't even want it. It's so much death and destruction and misery attached to that money and bad juju. I wouldn't even want his money, and that's real talk. I know no money is clean per se, but I wouldn't even want that money. Why does Umar Johnson think that the black community owes P. Diddy any type of allegiance? Because this is not a black and white thing. This is an evil thing. This is a good and evil thing. This is a spiritual warfare. And what Umar Johnson is neglecting to say, he wants to blame white men, but you don't want to blame P. Diddy. He wants to blame evil white men for certain things, but you don't want to blame P. Diddy for being affiliated with those evil white men, aka Clive Davis, allegedly. You don't want to, and you notice he didn't mention Clive Davis's name in that interview, even though that's who he was talking about when he was talking about Whitney Houston and who was responsible for her death and who had the power to shut down the cameras at that hotel where Whitney Houston was staying when she was found dead in that bathtub in that hotel. It's the same person who probably put out the footage of P. Diddy attacking and brutalizing Cassie. But we're responsible for that? You want to blame the black community for the abuse that Cassie went through? I have a better question. What black woman has he defended against domestic violence and domestic terrorism? Because domestic violence is not just physical for a lot of women, it's emotional, it's psychological as well. And I'm going to be honest with you. Umar Johnson has, though, he said he's never physically beat up a woman or assaulted a woman. And I believe him, I guess. But that mouth, I can tell he's very nasty. He has a very nasty, nasty, that's an ugly spirit right there. It's egotistical. It's nasty. Very nasty. Not because he doesn't like gay people. I don't care anything about that. You don't have to like gay people. That's fine. You can think that gay people are mentally ill. You can think all of those things. You can think whatever you want to think. I'm not asking you for validation or acceptance. I don't care because I'm going to like men no matter what he says, you know? And I'm not even, and there's some things I didn't, let me be quiet on that, child, because that's allegedly. Huh, I'm going to be quiet on that one. But I have a serious problem with him trying to make the black community complicit in P. Diddy's downfall and saying that we're happy to see his downfall. You know what? I am happy to see his downfall because he's a fucked up individual. And it's okay to be happy to see his downfall. He has been getting away with stuff like this for years. We are not responsible for coddling P. Diddy. I have been ostracized. I have been betrayed. I have been attacked emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. People have stopped speaking to me over the smallest things. You get into a disagreement with another black person and they cut you off. You feel what I'm saying? Now, he's upholding, and here's the thing. Here's the thing. There are so many allegations being made about P. Diddy. People have talked about him being bisexual. So my question to Umar Johnson is, where is all of the pro-blackisms when it comes to P. Diddy's alleged sexual orientation? He's not mentally ill either. He casually spoke over that. Then he tried to deny, see that's another thing, deniism. He tried to deny that P. Diddy was involved in alleged trafficking of children. He doesn't believe that. But P. Diddy has been connected to a lot of homosexual activity, and he is a homosexual. He's not gay. There's a difference. I don't care what the Webster's Dictionary says. I'm talking about in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration and spirit. There's a difference. A homosexual is a ritualized person who engages in same sex that has nothing to do with love, sensitivity, companionship, respect, dignity, and self love, most importantly. Has nothing to do with that. It has to do with egotism, it has to do with ritualization, trauma, and abuse. And we, as real gay people, we have to separate ourselves from the homosexuals and live on our own path. So what about those allegations that that are being made about him, about his sexual orientation? So because he's P. Diddy, it's okay that he's bisexual. You see the hypocrisy? But the black community is complicit in wanting to see him being brought down, right? If Cassie was his daughter, if Cassie was Umar Johnson's daughter, how would he feel then? How would he feel then if that was his daughter that P. Diddy had brutalized in that way? I'm just asking a question. See, a lot of these men, they try to pander to black women so they can get in your pocketbooks and purses because they want you to send them donations. They want you to send them money for their various projects and schools that have never opened, allegedly. They want you to support their lavish lifestyles. I don't ask for donations. I have a cash app, but I don't put it out. My cash app is for business purposes only. You know, I don't come on YouTube begging nobody for no donations. The same people that Omar Johnson is trying to blame for domestic violence against black women, these are the same people that he's asking for donations from sometimes. So we're supposed to be silent. See, these are traits of an abuser. We're supposed to be silent, not say anything, show our support for a man that we actually saw beating and brutalizing and dragging a woman and kicking a woman on the floor. But we're not supposed to be pleased that he's being brought to justice and being exposed. I'm fine. I'm just confused. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I'm gonna do my Ayanla Van Zant thing. Maybe I'm wrong in what I'm hearing and seeing because Ayanla used to always ask people, when I say this to you, don't tell me what you think. Tell me what you actually are hearing. Because sometimes when people say things to you, what you hear may not be exactly what they mean. And that could be the case. Maybe I'm wrong. But for him to say that 40% of black women are being domestically are in domestic violence situations and the black community does not say anything, does he take into account that a lot of those black women may not say anything themselves and the people may not even know that they're involved in a domestic violence situation because a lot of the men threaten the women and tell them you better not say anything? And they don't just threaten them verbally, they tell them exactly what they're going to do to them. My grandmother was in a situation like that. My step grandfather was so abusive towards her. He beat her self esteem down, he beat her down physically, and ultimately it sent her to an early grave. Ultimately. Because a couple of weeks before she died, he beat my grandmother black and blue. And you're telling me that the black community is complicit in what he did? How about you blame the person that we're all talking about? He wanted to blame black men and black women for abuse in the black community, but you're not a blame, but you're not I'm about to say a blaming, but you're not a blaming, but you're not blaming the actual abuser. Do you see that type of slick spell work and mind control? You want the black community to be responsible, but you don't want the abuser to be held responsible because nothing he said to me was strong enough in vilifying and condemning what P Diddy did. Then he talked on the apology, the so-called apology. He said P Diddy should have never done it. Well, yeah, I know he should have never done it. That's because you know what? I'm beginning to think all of them motherfuckers are connected. That's why he's coming out so hard for him. He has to slap him on the wrist a little bit and say, there, don't do that. That was wrong. Yeah, they have to do that. But then his real agenda, he's a Leo. I think Dr. Omar Johnson is a Leo. There are conflicting reports on his birthday. I think he's a Leo. One time I saw that he was a Leo, but on the cusp of Cancer, but he's a Leo from what I understand. But his true agenda, when you listen to him more, was more so about trying to protect and defend P. Diddy, not protecting and defending the victim of his brutality. I've been the victim of black male brutality. Okay? I've been the victim of female brutality as well. But I don't fault the people around me. I fault the people that actually did it. My aunt's husband, he tried to kill me, in my opinion, when I was 12 years old. And she stood by and watched him do it. Now, do I fault her for something like that? Yeah, because that's her husband. And she was right there when she could have did something to him to stop him. But she didn't do anything. Am I still mad at her? No. But I always give her the side eye. Now, if you're talking in a situation, and I was only 12 years old, you're talking about defending a grown ass man, and you're talking about people being mean to a grown ass man who was kicking and brutalizing a woman. Well, I'm not trying to make this about me, but where were you all? I'm talking about Omar Johnson. Where were you when I was getting beat up in the middle of Aspen Street when I was 12 years old? And the cab driver that had dropped me off at my grandmother's house, my great grandmother's house, he stood by and didn't do anything. And I was a child. But you want us to, because I'm going to be honest with you, the same way that Cassie was getting attacked in that video, my aunt's husband almost did me that way. He didn't punch me or nothing, but he was slapping me and trying to pull me in the car to go back home with him and my aunt because I was living with her at the time. But I got tired of her beating on me. I got tired of her beating on me and abusing me emotionally and physically. And I was a child. Why didn't her husband say to her, hey, you need to stop talking to your nephew like that? Why didn't her husband stand up for her, for me? I'm just asking questions, but you want people to show grace and mercy to a P Diddy? Because he's a billionaire? And that gives him the license to be above the law. Or he's a black billionaire, so we got to protect them. So that gives him the license to be above the law, right? Then the very same system, because my aunt had legal custody of me at that time because there was a whole bunch of stuff going on in my family that I don't really want to get into. The so-called social worker, she saw that my clothes were ripped the next day when I was up at my great grandmother's house. She saw my clothes were ripped. She saw that I was visibly shaken and upset, and that bitch didn't do anything. That's probably because they paid that bitch off. Where was the where was where was my protection at? And I was a kid. P Diddy has been messing with Cassie since she was very very young, and if I'm not mistaken, wasn't he messing with her when she was allegedly underage and beating and brutalizing her? And then Omar Johnson has the unmitigated gall to question why she didn't go to the police. Because you know why? Because the same thing that happened to me as a child, the same thing probably would have happened to her. P. Diddy could have paid off anybody. He could pay off judges. He's connected to politicians. Why does Umar Johnson think it would have been so easy for her to pick up the phone and call Tyrone And I'm being facetious when I say that. Pick up the phone and call Tyrone and say, hey, listen, this is what's happening to me. Tyrone being the government. Because the government is one big ghetto anyway. Why does he think that that would have been so easy for her to pick up the phone, call somebody? Do you know how many attorneys would not have touched that case? What is he thinking? You think they want to go up against P Diddy? He probably has a whole team of attorneys. Probably they don't even live in his country. So let's be realistic here. Let's be realistic. But you want to blame the black community for what he did. No, he needs to be blamed. Now, I get it. The black community got a lot of motherfucking issues and the black community remains silent on a lot of shit. I get that. But in this instance, we saw what he did. We know what he did. When I was staying in that hotel a couple of years ago when I was homeless, there was an African couple that was staying in the room next to me. An older African couple. And the husband was over there verbally abusing his wife. Talking really, I didn't know that until I found out later on. I didn't know that at the time. It was like 3 or 4 in the morning, like around this time. And their bedroom was their room was connected to mine. It was next door to mine. And I could hear him over there verbally abusing that woman, and she was sick at the time. This is when COVID was really bad. He was over there verbally abusing her. The next morning, I went to the front desk immediately. When I found out what was really going on over there, I went to the front desk immediately. And I told them what he was over there doing because I didn't know if he was physically abusing her or not. Now, I'm not trying to bring no gratification to myself, but I'm just saying, he said the black community don't do anything when black women are getting abused. And he's trying to take the heat off of P Diddy. Now, I understand that things do happen to black women in the black community that are unjust and unfair and fucked up. And it doesn't get the attention, and no, they don't get the protection that they deserve. But don't you dare try to bring don't try to use P Diddy. P Diddy, don't try to use that to bring attention to that. That's my problem. Why are you trying to use that for this over here? These are two totally different situations. You're trying to use the real life abuse of what black women go through to try to somehow take the heat off of P Diddy. And suffices to say, that African man that was abusing his wife in the room next door to me, he's a minister. He's a so-called preacher and minister. We are not responsible for coddling P Diddy. We're not responsible for coddling him. We are not responsible for making things easy for him. All of them are connected. That's why he's taking up for them. All of them are connected. That's why he's low-key trying to defend him, and then he's trying to use the domestic violence against black women in the black community to try to take the pressure off of P. Diddy and trying to make the black community complicit, saying that we just want to see his downfall, but the black community does not speak up against domestic violence enough against black women. And that may be true. That may be true. But I don't like the fact that he's trying to use this situation with P Diddy to take attention off of him. Because the bottom line is he is a woman beater. He is a horrible person. And I don't care if he has $1 trillion. He is horrible. And I'm really, I'm not surprised that Omar Johnson, is in allegiance with that. I'm not surprised. Because his energy is very, very scary to me. Omar Johnson is a scary person to me. He is a scary person. I would not want to be around that man. Not at all. He tells us that we should be afraid of white men. I would feel safer being around a white man than I would Omar Johnson. Facts. And I don't give a fuck who gets offended by that. Anyway, this is the occult view. And that's all I really have to say. Thank you.